lately I've been thinking a lot about what still inspires me about architecture. Not architecture as word, deadlines or drawings on the screen, but the things that made me fall in love with it in the first place. You know, the projects, objects, books, the ideas that stay with you long after you've seen them. And maybe that's because we are already halfway through the year. I've been working quite a lot lately, and at some point the days start blending together. So this video became a small collection of things that caught my attention over the last few months. A few places, books, and moments that remind me why I still find architecture so fascinating. One of my favorite things to do over the past few years has been traveling to experience architecture. Not only buildings I studied at university, but also projects I somehow missed along the way. Architects I've never heard of before, and sometimes places I've been thinking about for years. And one of those places recently was a housing project by lacaton vassa in Bordeaux. Some time ago we went there to visit friends, and while we were in the city I finally had a chance to see it in person, which felt strangely familiar to me. Maybe because it reminded me so much of the buildings I grew up around in Poland. And also I remember studying this project after lacaton vassa received the Pritzker Prize in 2021. And ever since then I loved how simple the whole idea feels. Instead of demolishing old housing, they transformed it, creating more light, more space, more openness. I loved standing there and realizing that architecture doesn't always need to be spectacular to improve people's lives. Sometimes the most powerful ideas are also the simplest. Well, hello, it's already another day, but I ran out of battery and I ran out of memory card, so I just had to leave it for another day, for another time. Anyway, I wanted to talk about books for the end of this video. I wanted to share a few reads that felt especially right for this spring/summer season. I'm coming back. I just had to take them. So the first one is Vacchini. It's Capolavori Masterpieces by Livio Vacchini. It's a tiny book, but you know, this kind of book that stays with you in your head for a little while. I actually really like that it's so tiny and so small, that it's really like a pocket size and you can take it everywhere. Vacchini writes about architecture in such a strict and radical way. Well, reading it made me think a lot about what actually matters in architecture once you remove trends and aesthetics from it. The second book, which I don't have it in a paper version, is the Invisible Cities by Italo Calvino. It's actually a very popular book among architects and students of architecture. And honestly, this book feels less like reading and more like drifting through someone else's imagination. The cities are fictional, but somehow they still feel emotionally real. And I think that's something what fascinates me the most about architecture too. The idea that places are never only physical. Third book, which is called The Fountainheads by Ayn Rand. It took me a while to finish it because it's almost 700 pages long, and it's probably the most controversial, maybe also the most interesting recommendation here. Actually, what I liked is that the more you read it, the more interesting it becomes. The story follows an architect who refuses to compromise his vision, no matter what are the consequences. Because of that, the book becomes a larger reflection on creativity, ambition, and individualism. There are definitely parts I strongly didn't agree with, but I still think it asks really interesting questions. Like, for example, how much of yourself are you willing to sacrifice just to fit into the world around you? And I think I'm gonna leave you here with this question to think a little bit more about it.